On the outskirts of a small town in America stood an old hospital, tangled in the woods and surrounded by superstitious legends. I worked as a doctor in this secluded medical facility, and one cold autumn night, something strange happened. This hospital, built many years ago, showed noticeable signs of wear and tear. An unusual silence prevailed within, interrupted only by the rustle of leaves outside the windows and the whistling of the wind. Night shifts here were always special, and many employees spoke of mysterious sounds and shadows sliding through the dark corridors. On that night, I was conducting a routine check in one of the rooms. Everything seemed calm until I heard a whisper. At first, it seemed like a figment of my imagination, but the whisper became distinct and recognizable. "Doctor!" The distorted whisper came from the corner of the room. I turned, but in the darkness, nothing was visible. "Doctor, help!" The voice spoke, this time closer. Surveying the room, I noticed that the pulse and respiratory monitors began to behave strangely, emitting incomprehensible sounds. Following the whisper, I heard the rustling of the blanket, as if someone was trying to get up. My heart froze as I examined the shadow in the corner of the room and saw something that had no physical form. Pale outlines of a female figure, as if made of smoke, slowly rose from the bed. She made no sound, but her eyes met mine, full of pain and horror. I stepped back, gripping the keys to the room. The entity whispered my name and pleaded for help. My vision dimmed, and I decided to step away, closing my eyes, hoping it was just a hallucination. When I opened my eyes again, the room was silent. The entity had disappeared, and the monitors behaved as they should. With the memory of this strange experience etched in my mind, I eagerly awaited the dawn, leaving that gloomy corner of the hospital. Since then, I felt a strange sense of uncertainty every time I worked the night shift in that secluded medical facility. The entity in the corner remained a mystery, but its whispers sometimes returned in the night's silence, reminding me that some secrets are better left unanswered.
One night, I was guarding the office. The job wasn't too demanding. The main thing was to keep everyone out except the bosses and make sure there were no leaks, as the pipes were in terrible condition and they always cut corners on everything. The door was solid steel. No one would be able to break in. Responsibilities were minimal, but it was a bit dull. Thankfully, there was a computer with some heroes to keep me company. I spent my nights in the office from Saturday to Sunday. Everything was always calm, and the keys were with the director, the manager, and me, so there shouldn't have been any surprises. So, one Saturday night, I was playing my game, and suddenly, I heard some noise from the other side of the door. I approached, looked through the peephole, no one. Thought it was just my imagination and sat back at the computer. Before I could sit down, something scratched again, and an indistinct male voice reached me. Then a knock on the door. Figured it must be the boss coming over. Put the key in the lock, looked through the peephole again, still no one. I asked, "John, is that you?" Silence in response. Then a muffled female voice murmuring something unintelligible. Again, I couldn't make out anything. I loudly and clearly sent the jokers away, threatened to call the police, although instead of a phone, there was only a button for the emergency fire call. A few seconds later, the female voice fell silent, and there was a faint tap on the window. I pulled up the blinds and was stunned. No, I nearly dropped dead on the spot. Fear literally knocked the ground from under me, and I sat on the floor right where I stood. Hanging on the grill was a person, or at least I'd like to think it was a person. Every inch of it seemed unnatural. It was as if someone had seen people only in movies, made a human costume, and put it on. A completely genderless creature stared at me with its bulging eyes and started muttering with both a male and female voice alternately, with a disgusting wheeze. Its facial expressions were clearly inhuman. Every facial muscle moved completely asynchronously in different directions. I don't know how it held onto the grill, but its arms and legs jerked in asynchronous convulsions. I sat on the floor and couldn't move. I had never seen anything scarier in my life. Suddenly, the sound ceased. It turned its head 180 degrees, as if noticing something outside, froze for a few seconds, and jumped down, muttering indistinct words already in a different, low, trembling voice. I pulled down the blinds, fell to the floor, and cried like a little child, unable to stop the shivers running through my body. I sat there until morning, unable to move, scared of every sound. Yet the echoes of that night linger in my mind, and I find myself glancing nervously at shadows, forever changed by the encounter with the inexplicable.
I worked as an assistant at the morgue when I was still a medical student. I've dissected and studied the bodies that people have bequeathed to the university. The corpses were stored in a huge freezer. The morgue had a motion sensor inside, so that if you got stuck inside, the alarm would go off. One day I was working alone because my teacher was doing paperwork in the office of a neighboring building. I heard a noise, but decided that the teacher had come. And then I realized that the alarm went off. My first thought, the mentor is stuck in the freezer. I rushed there, and already at the door, I ran into the teacher. I thought you were stuck, he told me. We stood looking at each other and at the door. Then they turned off the alarm and opened the door. We didn't find anyone there. Nothing could trigger the motion sensors. Well, nothing alive at least.